Tweak the mustache.
All right. It's going to be a hectic day. And again, because, well, I like to play with disaster and I like to help people, I'm using Wave.video, brand new software. They're making a lot of strides. David found his way out. And he's back in again.
He's that much of a fan of StreamYard that he can't handle it.
I know. Apparently.
Did I just get booted or did I boot myself?
I think you booted yourself. I'm not really sure.
Booted yourself.
But
okay.
Again, I'm testing it out. There may be freeze ups. This has happened, things like that, but they don't have a lot of people that can put together large streams with a lot of chat and a lot of things going on. And this really helps them in development. I do like to help different people do different things like that. So I'm a glutton for some punishment, but I really like what they're doing. And I look forward to this going full time because there's a lot of really neat features. I love the doubling up on the putting the title and the name, different styles even of how we put,
wow, look at
stuff. And other fun stuff like this.
Oh,
yep.
This is far too hip for me. Oh my God.
Anyway, it has a lot of cool stuff. And again, I've said it before, more than I even understand or know how to do things that I learned, because like I can dynamically resize and like shrink myself down and blow somebody up. And I mean, it's like they took OBS and stuck it in StreamYard.
Excellent.
Very powerful.
Is the audio management non-trash?
So far I don't have a specific management that I see, but I haven't got any complaints, and everybody sounds pretty equal at this point. I'm going to rely on the chat. How does everybody sound? Do we sound
it always sounded fine inside of OBS with the volume levels, and then when you go listen to it on YouTube, it doesn't sound like it sounds, or apologize, inside of StreamYards. Yeah, it always sounds fine inside of StreamYards. And then when you go listen to it on YouTube, it doesn't sound the same way on YouTube it does inside the StreamYards. If it did, it would be great, but it doesn't. It sounds way different.
Okay. Yeah, there's certainly levels issues from time to time.
Yeah, Eric, right now I'm posting to our locals community at vivabarneslaw.locals.com to let everyone know we are live now with another gaggle of lawyers.
Yes.
Booyah.
I have some further comments about StreamYards. I filed an 86-page brief, as you guys know. I'd like to summarize my points very briefly. However, just take a couple minutes for me to summarize my thoughts very briefly.
Just the highlights.
By the way, I'm thrilled.
Hoeg's gone.
I am thrilled. Remember, I was the guy saying I hope he gets 30 days. I got my wish times 5.
I swear I didn't hit anything there.
Oh, really? It just booted you out. Okay.
Yeah. No, mine just exploded.
I thought you were doing that as a joke.
No, that would be very funny, but I'm not that humorous. No, I just mine went widescreen. But
okay,
interesting. If we're making constructive criticism to Wave.video, the fact that everyone is trapezoidal except for the two people on the top left and right, that drives me nuts. Shrink.
It kind of bugs me a little bit too. I'm not gonna lie.
I
feel like part of my screen is cut off.
No, there you go. That's better. But now there's too much. No, I'm joking. It's only the fact that I thought I was having a visual hallucination that everyone was not trapezoidal. But no, this is good.
Those are the catbird seats. They don't even get another wall. It's great. I can't do the bubbles.
I am now Eric.
This is like PS Vita interface right there. I can't do it.
You know what? It doesn't matter. I mean, as long as there are different options, and I like that.
Options are good.
Modest on the logos. There's a lot of things we can do.
I didn't see who predicted what on Nate's stream yesterday. Did people make predictions, and who was the most right versus the most wrong?
I was more right because at least I predicted sometime.
Yeah. I definitely didn't think he was going to get any time.
I was predicting he'd be disappointed. So by the time when there was any time at all, I felt satisfied.
Yeah, I don't know. At least I personally didn't know that there was an option for a 6 month plus probation at county. So I thought it would be probation only. I think that's where Nick was. and then trying to guess once the judge went off on whatever 30 minutes of conversation, it started to sound more like jail, started to sound more like probation. And of course, the reason it sounded like that is because he did both.
What I love is that he was taken out to jail. So the judge guaranteed he's serving time.
Yeah, no,
and I think a lot of people wanted to see that. So
I did really appreciate that. I made a point of mentioning that. Like personally, kind of my favorite moment of the whole thing was as his attorneys are kind of making these late breaking motions after the sentence has already come down. And we filed a motion for reconsideration. Well, I've already looked at this pretty thoroughly, as I'm sure you can appreciate. It's filed for the record, motion denied. It's like, we'd like a stay. No, he's going to jail.
No, the funny thing was, it was at some point during the day, I said he's going to do 3 months. And it was after listening to the statements made and filed in support of why he should not get jail. Because listening to that, I mean, if anybody thought that was going to rub the judge, and it was more like someone stomping on your back with high heel shoes. Those
you're into that kind of thing.
Well, most people are not. That was it became clear it was pissing the judge off to have endless letters. It was like Jussie was applying for a job or an award, and he needed these endorsements from people. And man, that 5 months was more than I thought. But the way Jussie went out with the fist to the sky and saying, "I'm doing this for 400 years of black oppression," you know, he could have gotten more and probably deserved it.
Is it too late for me to give him more time?
They still don't have this changed. That's something I don't care for, is that it does go over people. There we go. That's a little better.
Do we want to answer this question?
Yeah. Are they?
Because people, I mean, look, I'll tell you, whether or not it's okay, if you don't think it's okay, don't use the platform. The issue is whether or not you have protected, meaningful free speech and not just the right to go around calling, dropping the N word, dropping the K word. If that's what you want for free speech, you may never find a platform that will have true, pure free speech. When we're talking about free speech in a politically relevant sense, so that you don't get censored, so you don't get politically censored, you're talking about having rules that you understand, like them or not, that you understand, that are applied equally, regardless of political persuasion. That's what people are looking for neutrality, not the right to willy-nilly.
God, who's that?
That's me.
Oh, not the right to willy-nilly say. Yeah, I agree. Look, you may never find a free speech platform. What we're looking for is one that is not going to weaponize the rules for political purposes. And so that when you know the rules, if you don't like them, go to another platform that, allows you to say whatever it is that you're not allowed to say on Rumble.
On that point, though, it's interesting because I know Getter, for example, was coming out. We're the Free Speech Network, and it's like, well, but we're going to censor this, we're going to censor that, and it's like, I don't need to have a platform where right-wing speech is free, but a left-wing speech that we don't like is censored. I really would like just an open platform. I don't care about some words being censored, obviously. N-words, things like that. It's like, yeah, whatever. We can get over that. But I am concerned, like, we can go into did you see the Facebook has changed its policy as of this morning? Yeah, Facebook and Instagram?
Temporarily. You have the link to the article, Eric. Yeah, but temporarily they're going to allow calls for violence.
Yeah, that's just making so much sense, right? Oh, as long as it's against the people we don't like. And by the way, are all those people in that country? No. What about the people here? Are you going to hear? Are there people who have access to their friends?
What about the
remember
people?
9/11?
What about the people who have family connections in both? Because there's a lot of people that have family and friends on both sides of this border. I have spoken with them. I have had many conversations, and they are absolutely heartbroken completely over this whole situation. And I mean, I don't want to go too deep into the conflict, but the one thing that gets me is that it seems like when you start to kind of like have this promotion of certain certain companies and whatnot should be kind of like decoupling from this group of people.
No.
Then you start to see, there was supposed to be, I saw the other day that there was supposed to be a concert in I think London or something. It was a big Tchaikovsky concert, and they decided to cancel it because why? Because Tchaikovsky was Russian.
Keep in mind, by the way, I mean, like he knows anything about anything that happened forward. The guy didn't do anything. He's a freaking composer, and it's like,
he was pre-Soviet, I don't know, like
Hold on, let me get the story. The Montreal Symphony Orchestra just let go or refused to let a player play who's Russian. I mean, let me just get the story. But with respect to the Facebook, just so that it's not strawmanned or mischaracterized, they're allowing calls to violence against soldiers, and a Russian invading soldiers is how they're.
They tried to split the onion. They did.
Well, but yeah,
but not to Ukrainian defending soldiers. So only some ideas. Right. I mean, if we're trying to look for some sort of principled position, right? It's like, okay, it's okay to say we want violence towards the Russian soldiers. Okay, then is it okay to say you want violence to the Ukrainian soldiers if that is whatever your position? Presumably the answer to that question is no, which always raises problems. But going back earlier in conversation before my phone rang, I think the point is not necessarily the words, but the ideas. We talk about marketplace of ideas. And I don't think that you can express ideas in lots of ways, and to require people to use less crass language in the expression of ideas, I don't think is necessarily an infringement of freedom of speech, because you're still allowed to express the ideas, or not, as the case as Facebook may be. Going back to our media topic, bring that all together.
Look at that, Kurt. Your mic's a little bit hot. Can you pull the gain down just slightly?
I've been on mute, by the way. Mr. Batsu, Eric, if you can find it in the chat, there's Mr._Batsu. It looks like Iggy Pop on as an avatar. It says they just deleted a video where Trump was a guest. I'm more than happy to start with not censoring political viewpoints. I'll worry about dirty words later. And I don't know if he means they as in YouTube or they as in Rumble.
There you go. You can show it yourself, David.
Oh, I can show. Oh, booyah! Look at this here. So as far as I know, like Rumble doesn't take down videos for viewpoint, political, medical misinformation stuff. So true. The ability to say we don't use these words here. If you find another way to say it, people. So I don't know if you mean Rumble or YouTube, but if anyone has any concrete examples of censorship in a politically driven sense on Rumble, let me know. Hide from stream. Okay, cool. I got power.
I guess the answer to my question is no. The audio management tools within Wave.video aren't that much better.
That I know of. I have to again, I'm still learning this software. I don't know if they have management tools, so I will get with them on that, because that would be very nice. I'd like to have a leveling.
It would be great, because like trying to adjust the game, like I can't see how I sound to other people, and like I don't even really have anything to adjust it against. Like I just arbitrarily turn it down. It's like,
no, I mean you're a little bit better now. What it looks like the not echo cancellation, but the leveling is a little slow. Like you'll come in hot and then it evens out. I don't know if you guys are hearing that. But
StreamYard has that problem too.
Okay.
Yeah.
They said it was YouTube. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's what I saw on YouTube as well. I mean, I think you're exactly right. We're talking essentially about manner of speech, and all these platforms are private entities. But to the extent that they want to gain followers from all of the fun blog posts and things, we respect the freedom of speech, and we want to be transparent about the way we handle our rules and those kinds of things. Those are perfectly reasonable things for users of those platforms to expect. And so if you're going to go and try to get the credit for we respect the notions of freedom of speech, it would be nice if that were followed through on from all of these platforms. And certainly I think there's a range of platforms that are trying to compete with what they're seeing as real idea concept-based censorship, not manner, right? Don't use these words to say these kinds of things. Yes, that is on the margin, some kind of censorship, but that is so minor compared to actually being able to have the debate to decide what ideas make sense and what don't. I think that's what most people get up in arms. And that's certainly why I live in terror on YouTube all the time, is because, you know, if you say anything that YouTube takes an interest in, then they can just decide to ding you either when you make it, or as we found, years after the fact, when they later decide it was a problem. So, I mean, there's all sorts of issues there.
Right. Well, haven't you found that, though, that it's like people, I don't feel like people are very consistent about the free speech stance.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And I'm the first one to say that, you know, there are times that I'm like, okay, that really pisses me off, and I want to take it down. But then I have, you know, my little thought like, well, if I believe in free speech, that means you have to eat shit every once in a while.
That's the human experience. You would not believe the response I get to the little Voltaire quotes, you know, on Twitter. You know, you tell
which
somebody,
he may or may not have said.
Well, he definitely didn't say it, but you know, Voltaire is also probably a pen name. We don't need to get into the specifics here. Regardless of who you want to chalk it up to, you go onto Twitter, you go onto one of these platforms and say, look, I can hate what you say, but I'll defend your right to say it, which is realistically my stance on these kinds of things. You get called all sorts of names which is very interesting stance for me to look at as how these social media operations work.
I think yeah, for me, I want to elevate. It's like I like ideas, but I like them at their elevated form. So I like, when we're trying to reach for the strength, the higher strength of ideas. And so this like cheap stuff, that's just at the baseline of just random slurs or something. It's like whatever, try harder, to try to express an idea with some sort of gravitas and actual weight that has something. It's like, that's an interesting idea rather than just a visceral reaction.
Bring up Pepsi Man for a second. It's not up to debate. It's censorship.
Read a book once in a while, maybe.
Oh, sorry, Eric, I can do it. Okay, so we agree. It's a form of censorship. And by the way, not allowing pornography is also a form of censorship. If you want pornography on a platform, don't go to Rumble and accuse them of being censors because they're not allowing pornography. Go to a porn site because that'll be directed for what you want. There's a few.
Twitter's good with that.
That sounds like a perfect Viva shirt quote. We'll go to porn.
I'll debate with Pepsi Man. I mean, if you want to allow ideas, but you want them to be expressed in particular, in a particular way of citation or a particular way of sophistication, I don't necessarily think that means it's censoring. It's just like you're not able to play on the ball field that I want to play in. I think would be the equivalent. Like it's like I want speech at the level of the New York Yankees in this equivalent. And it's like, well, I'm doing freedom of speech because it's T-ball and you won't let me play. I'm like, no, you just have to play better. You're not playing on the right field.
But it's definitionally, you can't say this word. I mean, I think we can all agree that's a form of censorship. It's just not one that rises to the level of the philosophical question that we're talking about, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
And
you can't say this word. I mean, that's.
I'm going to be contrarian, Hoeg. It's not censorship.
But it's a form of censorship, and limiting the amount of comments one can make is a form of censorship. Saying if all you want to do is every 1 second post, "I hate fill in the blank," well, we'll make rules, and if you think that's censorship, it is. Go to a platform that does it and have fun and see what type of environment that is for the expression and discussion.
It just turns into 4chan, which turns into a wasteland.
I don't know. 4chan's done some good work, but I've only seen it from the top level. I've never actually been on 4chan.
Oh, 4chan is not a fan of virtual legality.
And to be fair, okay, and Nate's pointing out that censorship
but if you want to follow
is
my
technically government restriction of speech, not individuals.
No.
All right, well, Nate will be here eventually.
First Amendment violation is government restriction. Censorship is not necessarily.
Censorship is a concept. Having a censor.
All right, well, good. And he can come in here. I mean, I wanted to point out one other thing. Like in my locals or whatever, there was the flip side. There is a certain point if you invite somebody to your house and they take a dump on the coffee table, and it's affecting all the guests around them. It's like, you know what? I can throw them out. Or if they're in a bar and they're disruptive, I can throw them out. Sure, they want to say what they want or whatever, but I don't necessarily have to listen to that. So I do understand that there is some degree of nuance in there. But
let's say somebody wants to go to a courthouse and say whatever they want to say in a courtroom. You can't. There are rules. Right? You have to, you can't just walk up to a judge and start yelling and like have some massive oration in front of a bunch of people.
There's a little rule of decorum.
Of course, technically,
but you can express any idea really that you want. You just have to have a little bit of decorum about it.
You've got to do it in the right way. You've got to follow the rules. Go up only when you've been called by the judge, and have a certain, like you said, a sense of decorum.
Thank you, Legal Bites.
You're welcome.
Well, we got Joe with the broken camera.
Hello, Joe.
Hello. How are you?
Whenever Joe comes in, you need Milhouse's grandmother going. Oh, was it Milhouse's grandmother or Ned Flanders? Oh no, it was Ned Flanders. Hello, Joe. Nobody knows that reference from The Simpsons. Whatever.
Nate's going to join us from the chat. It appears had an emergency tooth pulled. So
I think you should talk anyway. Good. That'd be hilarious.
That's never good, Nate. What happened?
Especially if he's high. Did they give you something? It could make for a better conversation.
This is not my camera problem.
Oh, he sent a picture. Hold on. Let me find that.
And I sent Eric a picture.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, we can hear you, dude.
This is not my.
Unfortunately.
This is not
Oh
my.
my.
Ooh, wow.
I'm kidding.
My
I'm
God.
kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, look at the claws. Like, rawr! But
I smiled when I said it. I was kidding.
It sounded very joking. So I can't. It's a wave thing. Like my camera is not reacting with wave. Like
You just used it last time you were on with us.
I know.
Joe, like everyone wants to see the fix here. Take out your mic, plug in your camera first, then get your camera on, then plug in your mic.
What are you joking?
Nope.
That's how I have to get my camera. So I have to take.
And then
it
you
out.
have to,
If
and then
it
you have
works,
to get
that's
up,
what you have to do.
and then you have to stand up out of your chair, and you have to do a special rain dance around your
Well,
desk,
do that first.
and then sit down.
Right.
Uh,
No, Dave. Give me those instructions one more time.
pull out the mic plug, and then plug in your video, and then plug in your mic.
In the meantime, we'll look at the glorious Nate.
Oh, he
Aw.
looks awful.
Poor
That
guy.
shirt. It's a shirt. Really.
Emergency tooth.
Yeah, so he's t-shirt day too. So good on Nate.
Was it a wisdom tooth?
I don't know. Hey, I mean, he was just going to come on earlier, so this is a very last minute deal.
Man, I'm
hope-
sorry to hear that. That sucks.
If anybody wants to go into the dark side of YouTube, watch plaque removal and wisdom teeth removal, and
Ooh.
you'll thank me later.
That's okay. I'm good.
No, why would we thank you?
Wisdom tooth removal will make even the hardest of stomachs turn, and plaque removal, you may think it's gross, it's the most satisfying thing to watch on earth. Booyah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dragon's Treasure is on the right
What were we
track.
saying about the law stuff? Jussie Smollett, 3 months.
I'm so disappointed because Nate isn't here to, I was like planning on him introducing the show.
Country.
I know.
I don't think my hack worked for Joe.
But what about that whole, right before they whisked him away, that he was like, I'm not suicidal. I'm not suicidal. That was interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. That to me, I was talking about it earlier on my stream. That to me is a call for help because he looked psychologically distressed, and the irony of him saying, "If something happens to me, I didn't do it to myself. Someone else did it."
Just like the last time. Just like the last time.
I did see that someone someone on Twitter mentioned that a lot of people that have been active in the BLM movement have been putting that in their Twitter bios, that if they ever get arrested, they're not suicidal. And I think it probably has something to do with Sandra Bland. What happened to her down in Texas, right? That
I thought it was John McAfee because he's the one who came forth, got a tattoo, and wound up suicided.
Well, but so this was a do you guys know about Sandra Bland?
Yeah.
Do you remember? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, a woman who was picked up by the police. She was literally moving to Texas from Chicago or Detroit or something like that to like kind of restart her life. And she had been posting on social media about hey, kings and queens, life is great. Life is awesome. Live your best life kind of thing. Like it seemed like very positive messaging. And then after she was pulled over and for some kind of, I can't remember exactly what the reason was, but they ended up arresting her. And then at some point in like that, I think it was 24 hours, if I remember correctly, like 24-hour span, she killed herself, I guess, like in prison or something. I think
she was in Malcolm Gladwell's latest book, Talking to Strangers, I believe, going into that. I think she was on her way to get a new job at like a university or something, got pulled over. And now I'm not excusing anything. She did have some issues beforehand. I mean, it was not like a out of the blue. She was perfect, sunny disposition, never had any problems or depression or anything else. She just out of nowhere, this happened. There was a history there. And again, I'm not excusing anything else with that. Did you get kicked out yourself, Kurt? Or
it wasn't on me.
Okay. Well, these are good to know. One thing I do like about it is when you come back in, I don't have to put you back up.
That is
just
nice.
Automatically restore.
Does everyone in the chat hear that bing bong as it occurs? Okay.
Yeah, I heard it.
We hear it. I don't think the chat does.
Okay.
What really sucks about this whole camera situation, I'm having the most amazing hair day today, and this is awful.
Everyone needs to see this.
Yeah.
So, but I think, just to kind of wrap up my long-winded thoughts on this. But I think that some people were saying that it may have had something to do with him being connected to the BLM movement, because a lot of people were saying that, which I think I'm at least putting together that may have been connected to Sanderland.
Okay. Oh, here we go. I'm going to talk about this guy. Joe knows him really well, I found out.
Oh, we all do.
Yeah, he's constantly tagging all of the time. One thing I find interesting about this individual is, you know how they say that having an English accent adds 10 IQ points? Fortunately, this guy proves that to be a lie. And he helps bring things right back to an even level again. Yes, we see your tweets. Yes, you're doing it all the time. Whatever. Keep tweeting away. You know, again, for most part, free speech. You don't make a whole lot of sense. I don't think Barnes is going to engage with you. I don't doubt he has the patience for that. You're muted,
Sorry,
David.
Viva, you're muted.
I have never seen a tweet from Right of Reply, but I turn off notifications, so I don't see anybody tagging. But people should appreciate that if Right of Reply thinks he's the only person tweeting and expecting a response, the idea of expecting a response from anyone, it's not exactly the fairest of expectations. So
or most realistic.
And I know you're going to make a video of us talking about it right now, and then you're going to babble for a while over it. That's cool. Happy to give you a little content. Thank you very much.
Reply.
So,
well, I just say, like, the idea that everyone should, that you're entitled to a response, and that if you don't, it's somehow a sign of avoiding the discussion. If anybody thinks they're the only person doing that on the internet, a lot of people ask questions, and there's not enough time in the day to get to the bona fide, legitimate questions. Not suggesting yours isn't. There's not enough time in the day, and no one is entitled to.
I think a number of people would suggest that those are not.
I'll suggest that it isn't. I have no problem suggesting that.
Joe has actually engaged with him in the past.
He has, and I haven't.
Engaged with him.
I've watched him go by. Okay, well, I've watched him go by. I haven't said anything, so I thought I'd just briefly state, yes, I know, I don't care. Please move on. So that's my personal response. Anybody else who wants to have a response, whatever else, it's nobody's right, David. You're right. Nobody has a right to take the time up. There's a lot of people out there who I wish I could entertain more, and if we're going to get sucked into one person who's poking at people to get a debate or get whatever's going on, that's not necessarily how to go about it. Come about things, legitimately. I argue with Nate all the time. We do a weekly show. I love to debate with people, but come at things with some degree of, back to decorum, right, Kurt?
Intelligence would also be helpful. Some sort of learning of some kind would be nice. Ability to admit when you've lost an argument, that'd be great.
Okay, so on to some legal topics. Hoeg, Richard,
sure.
We were talking about Elizabeth Holmes a little bit.
We were.
What's going on there? Because I thought it was really kind of cool. We were almost sidebarring into that. The idea of the intellectual property and snowing investors. And, I admit that I'm a bit more jaded on her than maybe some people, because I just looked at her and I'm like, what the hell is this? But
yeah, well, I mean, I think what we were talking about yesterday when we were on that stream is, for those of you that don't know me, my background is in corporate law. I'm not a litigator like so many of the other people that talk about these issues. I do venture capital, I do mergers and acquisitions, and I've been fortunate enough to be around magic technologies and how to get private equity investors and venture capital and hedge funds and institutionals and things like that. I'm from Michigan, again, for those of you that don't know, and I'm right outside of Ann Arbor, the University of Michigan, big research institute, and they're constantly spinning off commercialization projects there. And the one thing that I said yesterday is that, I think people should have been more circumspect. I think when you hear someone promising the moon, you can look at it, especially in hindsight, and say, yeah, I should have seen these various things. But every indication from everything that we've heard about Elizabeth Holmes in the room is that she is fairly convincing with those board members that she was able to get, with those people that she was willing to get. And essentially, the way our processes work to put money in, you can do due diligence. You can do your darn best to try to make sure that a company is working for you. But when you do hit the right boxes for what an investor is looking for, it becomes pretty tricky for them to actually do the operational diligence on a company. And most of the time, nobody is assuming that there's actual, honest to God, fraud and faked research results and things like that. So the story doesn't surprise me. But I do think it does damage to, what I called the dreamers yesterday, but founders that are scientists or in other capacities that are trying to get something off the ground, and that, maybe we'll have to go a little bit harder or be disbelieved when they do have the magic technology. I tend to call them James Bond technologies when I'm discussing them with clients, because there's so much crazy stuff out there.
What is the state, for those who aren't following, including myself, what's the status right now of Holmes's trial, sentencing? Where are things at with her?
I think we're in the interregnum here. I haven't been following it either after the initial commentaries. So I cannot answer that question, but we can look it up.
Nick was invited and was going to be on the stream, but I gave him the wrong time. So that caused a scheduling problem.
On purpose.
No, it wasn't on purpose.
March 32nd.
I'm brain dead because I know he's central and I know he's often known as being late. So I try to say, Nick, it's 11 a.m., but then I put Eastern time, which is my time zone. So he's getting a hold of me an hour before saying, on my way. And I'm like, dude, you have an hour. And then I found out that he had double booked because.
So yeah, she was found guilty and she's pending sentencing, I think. So I've got her found guilty here.
Okay.
Yeah. On most of her counts, I think.
Is it like September or something? Her sentencing is a long way away.
It might be. Wasn't there discussion of pregnancies and whatnot?
Yeah.
We're back to pleading our bellies. We're old school, man. You got to be kidding me.
Okay, well, I mean, if it were like a bona fide, I mean, consider being a woman who is in a similar age range and similar time of life. I can understand that if you do want to have children and this is something that you are going to have to face, I can understand, wanting to have children while you're out and whatnot. But with her, there's definitely been, I mean, I completely understand a lot of people having a very reasonable suspicion that she was purposely having children just to delay the proceedings. So because there's been a bit of gamesmanship and whatnot on her end. And
we know about the audio, folks. I'm definitely going to be letting Wave know that the audio is fluctuating. I've already wrote a note on it, and that'll be something we'll hammer
down some more.
No, it's not your fault. No. It's not your fault. Because it's happening with Richard. It's just.
Oh, am I doing something wrong?
You're not. You're coming in fine, and they come in hot, and then it goes down, and it's their balancing or auto leveling is not working correctly.
Maybe my camera's not working because of Richard. What did you do, Richard? Jesus, Richard.
Listen, Eric, I'm not going to bring up every Billy Madison reference, but N7, I saw it, and good reference. But hold on.
What did he do? I wasn't chasing him. I was joking.
No, I don't think that was on purpose.
Did you guys watch were you guys up to speed on the popcorn shooter acquittal?
No, that was Ricada did that, I think.
And also Andrew was with him.
Branca, yeah.
Not trying to joke. No, I just went white screen again. I was just looking up home stuff. So it looks like she was convicted in January. Her sentencing is September, and her boyfriend's going to trial nowish.
Ooh, interesting.
So remember, she tried to blame him as effectively the mastermind.
I know it's a dream, but I hope she gets maxed out at 20 years. I really do.
I mean, it's still white collar. It's she's still,
if Bernie Madoff goes to jail forever, I'm not sure why she shouldn't.
I would strongly suspect she will not get jail forever.
Forever.
Well, okay, so hold on. Other than Jussie, other than international conflict, what are the other cases that Hoeg, Uncivil, Good Logic was in court this week on the jury? The juror 52
yes.
Juror 50.
Explain to us what happened there, Good Logic Avatar.
Okay. Well, the background for those of you unfamiliar with this development that happened post convictions is that Juror 50 went on the air, did a couple of interviews, and proudly said that during the course of deliberations, he was very helpful because he informed his fellow jurors that he himself had been sexually abused multiple times as a child, and that As a result, he can relate to the fact that it's true that many factors or many details remain crystal clear, while other things are very fuzzy, which is consistent with what all four of the victims seem to be talking about. They would remember, a certain painting or whatever, but just forget like what year it was. So that helped corroborate it. When the defense heard about this, so they brought multiple motions. First one saying, obviously, since he had lied on his voir dire, where he claimed that he had never been sexually abused, that now they are entitled to a brand new trial, or at the very least a hearing. The government came back and specifically requested a hearing and said that they thought that was appropriate. So and Judge Nathan said, okay, we're going to have a hearing. I'm going to be doing all the questioning. Submit to me, please, whatever questions you'd like to have me ask, and then she'll decide which ones to ask. So they showed up on March 8th. She basically ended up granting him immunity. He came in there with an attorney, and he pled the fifth. And the government said, we'll grant you use immunity. Mm-hmm. So she ordered the use immunity, and then spent an hour questioning him. During the course of that hour, he ended up basically saying that when he was 9 or 10, he had been abused multiple times by a former stepbrother and the stepbrother's friend, and was questioned, why did you lie? And he basically was saying that with respect to that he was flying through it. There was a lot of noise around, that he felt under stress to get it done because he didn't want to be the last one to finish, and that when he got to that particular question, that he missed the part with the wording of the question, which was question 48 on the voir dire, was, have you or a friend or family member ever been a victim of sexual abuse? And the question is a little lengthier than that. And then the follow-up 48A is, if yes, was it yourself? You're supposed to check different boxes, or a friend or a family member, and then, please explain. And so Judge Nathan was very, very thorough in going through and everything except the nature of the abuse. Like, we know who abused him, and we know when it was, and he said it was multiple times. She definitely did not want to know how deep the sexual abuse was.
Well, Joe, hold on. Was it sexual or was it physical?
Sexual.
Okay.
Well, I think that would include physical.
Physical, yeah.
Well, what I mean is physical abuse of a sexual nature or physical abuse of a non-sexual nature.
Well, the questioning specifically was sexual, and he had said sexual, which is, and that sexual abuse as a child is something that you don't that results in people remembering certain details very with very clear memory, as opposed to other details, other basic things which become very, very hazy. Now, it's an interesting thing to understand how the Supreme Court, first of all, the yardstick that the Supreme Court looks at and what the judge was allowed to look at. She made very clear, correctly, and I have great respect for the way she handled this case, Judge Nathan. Like, time and again, she was spot on with respect to respecting the law as applied by the Second Circuit, and she seemed really very fair, and that fairness, I saw it over and over again during the course of this trial, and correct application of the law. I was somewhat pleased that for a Biden appointee, which I'm always concerned from, as someone who aligns more with the right, I'm always concerned that someone's going to be appointed based more on ideological basis than other bases. From this one experience of watching her day after day in trial, I have to say she applies the law the way you would hope for a judge to apply it. At least from from this one case, from what I saw. And so the yardstick is a case from 1984 when you're dealing with a person lying on their voir dire, and whether or not the defendant is now entitled to a new trial. So that yardstick is a case from 1984, which is called McDonough Power Equipment versus Greenwood.
Joe, no one's taking notes, Joe.
No, give it. I like the thoroughness. It's good.
Well, okay. Nobody's going to go look up the decision. Yeah, what's the principle for the short attention spans here? There's
two questions you look at, and the first question is, was there dishonesty on a material question, which here there was, and step 2 is if there was, and if the person had given a valid answer, a correct answer, would that have created a just challenge for cause? So we step back in time and we look at, at the time of the voir dire, if the potential juror had been honest, would that have created a just challenge for cause? Now, I, as an attorney, and probably most of you, when you hear that, would apply standard A as opposed to standard B. And what do I mean by that? You would sort of, when I heard that, and I'm curious how you guys would understand that, because the way I would understand that those words, just would it create a just challenge for cause, I personally would have interpreted that as saying, okay, at the voir dire, if this person had been honest on the question, I, as a defense counsel, would now have had a proper cause to say to the judge, look, I want this person removed for cause. I don't want to burn a peremptory on them. I want them moved for cause. And then if we reach that yardstick, now I'm entitled to a new trial. Is that how would you guys interpret those words, a just challenge for cause? Would you interpret that in any other way?
No, and my bottom line, I have never practiced criminal law, but if a juror lied on a question that was important enough to be included in the jury instructions, the jury form, necessarily that would be a cause for a just cause for booting that juror. There might be varying gradients, like where do you live, or have you ever lived in this, whatever.
That's not material. That wouldn't be a material question.
Yeah,
that wouldn't get past question 1.
This was key to the admissibility, the eligibility of a juror.
Right.
My only issue is my only question, and someone who knows can answer, what happens? I mean, if they say they would have booted that juror from the beginning, is it a retrial?
No. So the point is, you only get a new trial if you meet the Supreme Court standard of just challenge for cause. But the way the Second Circuit and most circuits have interpreted the words just challenge for cause is that the judge would have, that any reasonable judge would have removed them and said there's no way that they can possibly retain a capacity to remain fair and impartial. That is a reading of the words just challenge for cause, which is a very, very high bar, much higher than the words would imply to me. And that is why in the Second Circuit, despite the fact that dozens, hundreds, and potentially thousands of defendants have tried relying on this, as of 2016, 0 of them had ever successfully relied on a dishonest answer on a voir dire to get a new trial. So the chances of her succeeding in getting it, at least statistically, the numbers are against her. I also should mention, by the way, that he also claimed that no family member of his had ever been accused of sexual assault. And this became relevant in that, with respect to this particular incident, what did he say? He said he had been abused by his stepbrother. And Judge Nathan asked him, did you ever tell anyone? And he said, not till he was in his teens. Well, who did you tell? He said he told his mother. And he said, he told your mother, and what did she do? Well, she filed a police report, but nothing further came out of it. So she said, well, on question 49, you wrote no also. And it says, in any way, whether they had any family member ever been accused of sexual assault, why did you check no on that? And he's like, I never thought him as my family member. Like, even then, I never thought him as a family member.
The funny listening to this, comparing this one to the juror in the Roger Stone trial, if I'm a judge, this objectively would be enough for me to say this one would have been struck 100% at the stage of jury selection. In the Roger Stone, lying or forgetting about social media posts would not necessarily have been enough to strike the jury. But there, in my mind, 0% chance they're ever going to have this trial again. If they'll find every reason under the sun, even if there's the best arguments there, because for the sake of the victims. I mean,
I'll tell you. I'll tell you what she did, which was part of the reason I was led to believe that this is going to be part of that 0%. She laid groundwork to basically set herself up to have enough meat to deny the motion for a new trial. Because what she did was, after this whole thing was over, she said, okay, we're going to play this out as if you had answered yes at the time. And I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I want you to say, if we were there on November 8th when you first came in here for voir dire and you had said yes, the following are the questions I would have asked you, and I want you to answer, in that scenario. And then she said, do you feel that the sexual assault is something that would affect your ability to be fair and impartial here? He said, absolutely not. Do you think that it had any ability to, affect your memory? No. Do you think it would create a bias that you would have against Ghislaine Maxwell? Absolutely not. Do you think it would create a bias in favor of the prosecution? Absolutely not. And he's like, why are you so confident of that? And he said, it's not a part of who I am. Like, I don't care. It's not like part of my day-to-day life. It's not anything. So like, that's why it has no impact on me. And the way he phrased it just seemed very genuine and sincere with respect to him saying that. Now, you and I, if we're trying to assess his honesty, I think he's terrified of this motion being granted, because he's basically going to be known, even though no one knows his last name. We know his first and middle names, but still, his name and he's basically associated with the guy who screwed up and got Ghislaine Maxwell a new trial, and she gets acquitted. Then, oh my God, like he's got to live with that forever. So he had a very strong interest in getting.
But that's an irony, because the reason why he was in there was to make sure that she was convicted. So
you're assuming that he's trying to get on the jury, and that's part of what she asked him also.
Well, isn't that what other people stated? Didn't other people state that he said, I want to make sure that nobody gets out doing this type of thing? Isn't that what kind of led into it? Is his statements there saying that?
I don't remember that. I don't remember him saying, I want to make sure of that. I mean, it's not like he's like, this is, that he certainly claimed on the stand that he had no unique interest to try and get onto this trial. And you have to understand that part of what we're looking at here is you cannot.
I'm not talking about the stand, Joe. I'm talking about in his interviews that brought this whole thing to a light.
Well, he said in his interview, this conviction is for all victims, right?
Okay.
Like this is so, which definitely makes it sound like he's an activist, regardless of whether that's how he meant it. That's at least how it sounded. And then the I guess reporter or journalist that he was talking to asked him, like, so do you remember the questions that you answered in your questionnaire? Do you remember?
He was like, no,
whether or not you checked. Yeah.
And
like, you can actually see his face drop.
Right.
When he realizes, oh shit.
So one last point, and before I wrap up here, is that she's not allowed, and she made this point multiple times, this is accurate under the law, she's not allowed to ask about jury deliberations or anything that happened in jury deliberations. The only consideration is what was happening at the time that he's answering that questionnaire in order for him to get on there. Right. If he had the ability at that time to remain fair and impartial, and she comes to that conclusion, in that case, she has to leave him on, as the McDonough case is interpreted by the Second Circuit. If she does not find that, then she's ordered to issue a new trial. It's basically, but whatever he did in jury deliberations, he literally could have been screaming at them, saying, "We're not walking out of here unless we get a conviction because I was sexually abused and these women were sexually." If he did all that, he did terrible activism, terribly unfair activism in the jury deliberations. We can't ask about that. We can't know about that. The judge cannot consider that. None of that is relevant. So with respect to him saying this is for all the victims, the question is, at what point did he get to that point? Did he get to that mindset? If he had it, if he developed it during the course of the trial.
Joe, I mean, just being reasonably objective.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a victim of this type of thing, you usually don't just shut it off and say, yep, I'm perfectly good. And then all of a sudden you go through a trial and you switch it back on. And I think that we could point out 5,000 psychological surveys and everything else that would pretty much reinforce that fact.
He's not quite in that position, because he was saying it wasn't affecting him at all. So he wasn't saying, like, I turned it off for the purpose of the trial. He said, I turned it off long ago.
Yeah,
but then now it popped on. Now it popped on. It's for victims. Well, and I'm just saying he did cover it, and somebody else was also excused, from what I understand, for a very, very similar statement or struck. Well, for a similar thing. So wouldn't that precedent also come into effect? Like, it was bad enough to strike somebody else, but it's not bad enough to strike him.
I don't know that she. The question was it a peremptory strike or was it him? And we also, it's really changes from one individual to another. it changes from one individual to another with respect to, like, you know, how they look when they answer a question. The same way two people testifying and saying the same words, one might have more credibility than another. So really it comes down to you're questioning, do we believe him or not? And you're saying, you're expressing
I actually don't really
and
care if I believe him or not. I'm just saying that the facts on the ground are, it just doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. Whether he was completely recovered or not, I'm questioning if it's relevant, because now it is a questionable verdict. He should not have been there. He did actively check off the form that it didn't happen, and it didn't happen. Why do we even have a questionnaire? So I guess the thing is, if we're going to have a questionnaire and we're going to put in statements like that, and you can just check anything you want and it doesn't matter, then you might as well throw that out too.
Yeah. And if I had to guess too, my guess would also be that either written on the questionnaire somewhere, or maybe verbal instructions as they were given the questionnaire, there probably was some kind of statement made saying, this is your responsibility to fill this out accurately and to the best of your knowledge.
It was in the instructions on the first page and on the last page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, if he has the burden to read each question and answer correctly, it's to say, oh, I just kind of breezed through this.
But failure to meet that burden isn't quite the same thing as lying. See, this is where I think even on part one of the analysis, everyone's assuming it's a lie, and I just like to remind as a matter of law. Well, yeah, it's not a lie. To say that it's wrong and to say it's a lie are two different things. For it to be wrong, it has to be knowingly false.
Mens rea.
Yeah, you have to have the mental statement, right? For it to be
right. So I'll just go to a context.
So it's false.
You filled out a questionnaire and you didn't fill it out correctly. Tough shit. Move on. I mean, let's just go black and white and not even worry about whether he lied, didn't lie, anything else. Was it on the questionnaire? And yes or no?
But that is the legal analysis.
But at that point, you're fighting the law, and which is maybe you wanted to fight the law, which is fine. But I actually have read the underlying case that Joe talked about, this McKenna case, and I agree with his McDonough. I apologize, McDonough. I agree with his analysis 100%. That this is the relevant legal standard. So I called Joe afterwards to let him know that I thought he did a really good job on that video summarizing it, because he's right on the law. He's right on the law. Even if you assume that he was lying, even if you get to step one. This is game over at step two. You would have to conclude that basically the judge would be essentially compelled to dismiss the juror for cause, and even a check of yes would not be sufficient in and of itself to say for cause. And that's one of the reasons
with a yes
they developed
check
the record.
made the jury. I mean, do we know that?
Do we know what?
Do we know if anybody that checked yes made the jury?
I don't know that we know. I don't think we know that. A lot of this stuff has been sealed. A lot of this sort of thing. Certainly anything.
David, unmute your microphone, dude.
Is sealed. I'll tell you this.
Oh, you're not muted. Oh, you might need to remove yourself and come back in. That happened before too.
I'll tell you this much. I don't like. If you ask me the law, I don't like the way the Second Circuit applies the Supreme Court decision. I think that it is too high a bar. But I also think what you're describing, Eric, is too low a bar, because a lot of times, if someone doesn't understand the question and they check off the wrong box because they don't understand it, so you can tell me now that, well, you lied on the voir dire. Let's do a whole trial all over again. That seems to be far too forgiving to a defendant who's been convicted
of something heinous. He was going to go away for life. Now, okay, let's step back here. Let's say it's a death penalty case. Now we're going to go and execute this person.
You can hear me?
Let's take it the whole way.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, I just have one question. Has there ever been a case that anyone knows of when a new trial was ordered because of a violation of a jury member on the form? And
I'm sure that
what was that case?
As of 2016, that hadn't happened in the Second Circuit, but I think it had happened very rarely. Out of the thousands of defendants who applied, I think.
I'd like to see one example. What lie or what misrepresentation was so egregious? Usually
it's when they can show after they do like some sort of a voir dire hearing like this, and they basically can establish that the person was a real activist and trying to get on the jury, and that's part of the reason that they lied.
And by the way,
I had the person answered in this interview that of course, don't make me totally biased, 100%. Then maybe that's the kind of circumstance.
Maybe, no, I don't think that would happen, because I think an activist would lie at that point. But when you can display their activism in multiple sort of ways, and then they flat out lie in a way that there's no way to justify how they come out with something like that. Like, let's imagine not this thing, but like the question is, were you ever fired from a job? And the person had been fired 2 weeks earlier, and they lie and say, no, I've never been fired. Or they lie about what they're doing for a living, meaning I work for a law firm. I don't want them to know I'm on a law firm. I think that was the case that I was looking at a brief that had been written in like 2017, where the person literally lied about their profession because, or even about like knowing the defendant, because they had actually met them a few times, and certain things like that they basically flat out lied about. And, and it came to light that they had a strong interest on getting on that jury. So something like that, it doesn't, as that sort of fact pattern doesn't happen very often, but that's literally, that's pretty much what the Supreme Court, as interpreted by these circuit courts, was saying. I personally would never interpret the Supreme Court decision that way, but that's the way it's been interpreted by the
I think we can understand why they interpret it that way, insofar as it's an apocalyptic step for the legal process, right? Going back and saying, all of that time was wasted. All those resources were wasted. The law abhors that at a very specific level. So they're going to try to save it. So that you can see how that precedent gets developed. But I tend to agree that that's overly high. But I think we maybe aren't giving enough credit to, I think it was Legal Bites that said, if you look at every document, every form that you have to fill in for every government, and you look at the error rate on these kinds of things, whether they're foot faults or serious or otherwise, people can't fill out this stuff. And if it's in a high stress situation, I might be on a very public jury and going through these things. I tend to have a certain amount of sympathy for folks filling out these documents. Now, if you can,
I do too.
And was intended to get on the jury.
But this is not a terms of service document from Apple here. I mean, there is some relevance, and the specific question wasn't if I work at a law firm or something. It was something directly on point to the case. It was directly on point.
I brought up the chat there. It's a good point. Is that you have to have a high threshold, because otherwise everyone's going to be asking for mistrials after conviction because they forgot about a social media post, or they forgot about where they worked. So it's an interesting thing. But Joe, and by the way, the reason I didn't know that I was actually on mute, because it's a gag, and I didn't know that the person in the chat saying I was on mute was being serious this time. Joe, what ended up happening? What's the next step? Get to it.
So she gave them a week to submit briefs. Oh, so what she did when she was conducting the hearing, after she had finished questioning him, she actually asked, she held a sidebar for like 20 minutes, presumably to ask them if they had additional questions that, based on his testimony, they had new questions that they wanted, and to go over that. She ended up asking him, several more questions after that. Then they wrapped up, and she sat him down. She gave each side a week to put it in, or is it 10 days? I don't remember. I think it was a little more than a week, to put in their, to write a brief and submit why it is that they should get the relief that they're seeking. And then we're going to wait for her to get a decision. I'm pretty sure she's going to end up denying the motion, and we're going to end up moving on to sentencing. That just based on the way the order of the questions that she asked and how she went through everything.
Above and beyond retrying this trial and the traumatizing effect for the victims, the way this trial ended, this judge would never want to tinker with another possible outcome, like a more damning trial, a more exposed trial, bringing in. There's no question. The judge is arguing towards a conclusion. From the conclusion and not towards it. There's
more to it politically, if you think about it from her personal perspective, which is she's supposed to be bumped up to the Second Circuit. So is she gonna stick around? This is a nice case to have on your CV, that I was the presiding judge on the Ghislaine Maxwell case. Does she really want that to be a race, or does she want to stay down here to handle this case, or is she going to go up to the Second Circuit and then come back down here to try this case? It's like if I were sitting in her shoes, and any sort of interest in maintaining a legacy, this is not a case that you want to go away. Now, at the same time, it's also the case that she doesn't want to be overturned. And I think to myself, would her peers, when she moves up to the Second Circuit, are her peers going to overturn her? I mean, that'd be kind of awkward. But I don't think she's going to be overturned, because there's such strong precedent in favor of denying this sort of motion, that once she established a record like this, his credibility whether he seemed believable or not. And to me personally, he actually did seem fairly believable with respect to the sincerity of him believing that he had the capacity to be unbiased. That it did seem sincere. But even if he seemed like a joke, that's a finding of fact that she alone has a unique ability to do. So if she finds as a matter of law that there's credibility to his statement there, that he said he had the ability to remain impartial and biased, that could never be, that's almost impossible to overturn on appeal. How do you overturn that? She checked off all the boxes.
Oh God, this is what is so frustrating. But it shouldn't be coming to an opinion like that. That's why I wanted to get into the black and white. It's like, okay, I get caught on something. It's like, oh well, no, I'm unbiased. If I get caught on a lie, somebody in the chat said it's true. Well, tomorrow it would be like, well, I lie and then I get caught. And I say, well, I didn't realize or whatever. We've already got a problem. The thing is broken. And by the way, I'm not trying to advocate for her or anything else. Obviously, she was caught up in a lot of garbage, but there's a reason that there's a form there. And if it's like, oh, well, we've got to have every standard in the world that the verdict must go on no matter what, then screw it. Just toss the form. Okay, we don't. They're no longer relevant.
I agree with you.
I agree with you on that. Whether or not this was the essential issue that you could not make a mistake on in that jury questionnaire, or whether or not it's incidental. Seeing the chat, look, I think it's essential. I think this is a cornerstone element that had they known, 1,000% that person would not have been on the jury. But there's also in my mind zero chance that this judge wants to have another trial, potentially have more stuff get exposed. It has
nothing to do with justice, though. That's my problem. That has nothing to do with justice. That's all politics. That's all career building. That's all everything that's a perversion outside of what supposedly is being determined in the case.
Because this is not like a social media post about Roger Stone. This is central to the issue.
To me, if you ask me, just if we're talking philosophically, if you want to ask me what the fair yardstick is, I think it's higher than what you were describing, Eric. I actually think that the wording of the Supreme Court is a great yardstick. If it's a material question and it's enough that any lawyer could have said, hey, this creates a for-cause reason that you should remove this juror, and that once we get to that yardstick, in that case, we should be very concerned that justice has not been served here.
And you don't think this is a for-cause reason to do it?
And I would say that. I would say that applies here. For sure it does. For sure it does. I'm simply saying, what I'm saying is this: the standard of law as it applies in New York, I think that she's practically DOA. With respect to what the law should be, in my personal opinion, but is not, I think that the law should have a lower bar and that there should be a new trial that's granted here, even though I think she's a terribly, terribly evil person and that she should go away for the rest of her life. And as far as the justice system that I'd like to see in my country, I think the bar should be lower. And under that lower bar, she certainly would meet that yardstick. But that's just not the way the law is in the Second Circuit. And that's why I'm telling you, that's why I'm weighing in with philosophically versus what the law is. And you guys can all come to your own decisions as to what
Kurt, I think you're still muted, and I'm a non-lawyer. I'm the first to say that. Yeah, you are muted.
Yeah. You may need to go out and come back in, just like Viva did.
Now, Alita,
at least get memeable expressions when you do, so that way we can capture that.
What's Alita been working on these days? I have not since Rittenhouse.
I have swan dived.
Divin, swan divin.
No. I have been in a swan dive.
Yeah, I hear you now.
Great, thanks.
Right into the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard lawsuit, because that is going to trial next month. And
there was one thing more before we moved on topics, if you don't mind. Early on in Joe's analysis, he pointed out that juror number 50, when they testified, was given use immunity. And I thought maybe that might be a notable thing as a point of legal education, because I don't think people would know what that meant. So I thought maybe you could talk about the different kinds of immunity and why that's significant.
So you're asking me to explain use immunity for how it works in the criminal justice system?
Kurt, why don't you explain that?
I'm the expert. I'm the expert in criminal justice here now, who's weighing in on exactly the difference between general immunity and use immunity. If that's what you want me to do, I'll.
I want to hear about Johnny Depp.
That's what I was going for. Yeah.
Well, we'll get there, but Kurt, you can explain if you know it.
I do know it. Does anyone else know it? So it doesn't have to be me.
No.
Okay, man, I'm in video games. What are you talking about?
All right. So when he said that the juror was granted use immunity, that's actually a significant distinction. So under the Fifth Amendment, obviously you have a right not to testify against yourself. In order for that to be overcome, the government can grant you immunity. And then the question is, what flavor of immunity? Dun, 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 because there are two flavors of immunity. One is transactional immunity. So you get immunity for anything related to the transaction. So basically, you're just done. So no matter what you say on the stand, no matter what the police find, no matter what they uncover, right, you have immunity related to the transaction. In this sense, criminal transaction, the things that flow that are related to the crime in question. So not only that crime, but anything that's part and parcel of the crime that they may not have discovered. Exciting. But you don't have to give transactional immunity. There's a different kind called use and derivative use immunity. So now under use and derivative use immunity, the prosecutor or the police can't use anything you said at that trial, and they can't use any evidence that derives from anything that you said at the trial. But if they're able to find independent evidence that does not come from the use or derivative use, they can still bring charges. So there is still criminal jeopardy against juror number 50, and that is sufficient to satisfy Fifth Amendment concerns. The more you know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will replay this later so I can get it.
Yeah. You'll get a copy strike if you use that full clip. I wouldn't do it.
Hey. What's going on with Johnny Depp, though? That's what I want to know.
He's suing her for defamation for the claims that she made about the alleged abuse. And there was a long discussion as to whether or not he should even pursue this to trial because he's not the most savory of characters in some of his extracurricular activities.
When he already lost one of these, right? Like, I'm remembering this correctly.
He lost it in England.
Yes. He lost in the UK. That lawsuit was not against Amber Heard. It was against the Sun because they referred to him as a wife beater, relying on what she had said and the fact that she had filed a police report against him and that kind of stuff. So I understand why he lost that one because I don't know UK defamation law. But, you know, even if it's in the United States, you know, we're talking about a public figure. He would have to prove actual malice, which there is none in that kind of a case, because you can see that it's pretty reasonable for any newspaper or, you know, rag or what have you to rely on a police report, right? You know, there are some alleged witnesses.
Well, then there's that magical word alleged. And then they take that away, but they like to just flat out say it. And by the way, the judge apparently does have ties to her. So some interesting problems. Yeah. I don't know all the in-depth stuff.
The UK does not have freedom of speech like the US.
No, that's
I'm not sure any country on this earth does. God bless you.
Yeah, no, but defamation law, the reason it's so hard in the US is because it's an affront to the First Amendment. And so that balancing is constantly happening in the United States in a way that it does not happen in the other jurisdictions. So that's one reason why you have trouble bringing them in places like that.
But I do know that there are a lot of people that were pointing out some issues with that trial, and I haven't yet gotten that deep into that trial. I've been kind of focusing on some of the more recent stuff in this specific litigation between the two of them, between Heard and Depp. But I'm planning on spending a whole heck of a lot of good time on all of it because it all kind of interrelates with one another. But I do understand that there are a lot of people that have been saying that there were some decisions that were made and some reasoning upon which those decisions relied that were maybe a little bit less than ideal. Not quite
suspect would be the word.
Yeah, a little sus.
The defamation in the UK it's similar to Canadian defamation in that it's much broader and it's much more favorable to the plaintiff. And in Quebec, I've mentioned it a couple of times, you can actually have defamation even if the statements are true, because even outside of Quebec, truth is an absolute defense to defamation. And I think the issue in the UK was the Sun, first of all, was not the son of Johnny Depp. It was the Sun, the news outlet.
Right.
But the wife beater expression that they used, they said he effectively engaged in behavior that was sufficiently similar that, you know, they could use that hyperbolic description, that there was
opinion.
There were opinion and there were confrontations between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
Most of them she was beating his ass.
True.
Well, but now here's the
so, she's bragged about it. This is the problem I have. Is like,
but that's not a defense to
he objectively, in terms of the defamation stuff, he has lost I mean, more
he's
money
the
than
Pirates
we
of the
can all
Caribbean.
imagine if we added it all together. I mean, legitimately, he has been harmed. I think
Yeah.
everybody
And
would agree.
and the timing on them was pretty direct.
Yeah.
Also, you know, losing out on Fantastic Beasts, losing out on Pirates of the Caribbean. Hey, there's Joe.
Yep. Oh my goodness.
That's what he looks like.
He does look good today.
So what did you do, Joe? You figured it out?
Yeah.
He unboomered himself.
He wasn't plugged in. He's embarrassed because it was a stupid thing.
No, I was plugged in. I'd
But
forgotten.
which computer, Joe?
Did you forget to turn it on? Did you
No, I
forget to turn your camera on?
I had been recording on OBS and I never closed out OBS, so my camera.
Oh yeah, I've done that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take that one out of the notes then.
Yeah.
User error was that
You
one.
got something else using the camera. I've done that before. But I mean, that's the fun of defamation suits, right? It's so hard in the United States, and if you lose, you get a ruling against you that basically says whatever thing you're arguing about is,
true enough.
true-ish, and that's that's in the legal documentation. That's one of the areas where Johnny Depp had problems. I think is losing that lawsuit, whether or not it was accurate or not. Or
Is he better off though, just sitting there letting it slide and just by nature, by being quiet, agreeing with it? I mean, isn't he kind of forced to?
If you're sitting across the desk from me, sometimes that conversation is, what do we want to have happen? What do we think the likelihood of winning is? Sure, but you're going to promote it. You're going to publicize that the statement was made, and if you lose, things go really, really bad. Because
okay, but Richard, he's not a normal person here. I mean, he doesn't have to be sitting across your desk. Most people who are not Johnny Depp with that name and already it's magnified. Well,
I'm joking.
Anyway, I'm just saying it's already so magnified. If he's quiet about it, isn't that interpreted by many people to be agreeing that it's true? Like,
yes,
just fighting it,
so.
at least have the argument out there and say,
well, but wrongly so, right? Hopefully the reason you're having, videos like this with the legal bunch and things is because the honest to God truth about a defamation lawsuit is that they're tricky to win and they can go very wrong in a number of squirrely ways that you're not thinking about necessarily if you feel aggrieved. And maybe you're completely legitimate in your grievance. Sometimes the legal process is still not the right way to try to solve the problem.
No, I agree. Unless you have Peter Thiel behind you, then definitely do it.
Well, I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why it makes sense. If you got a big chip stack, that can make sense as well. But I mean, it's one of those areas where, and I want to hear more about this specific lawsuit, is that you do get into these positions where you can, it's not prove the truth of the accusations, but essentially the court's going to be going in there and if they deny you.
Wow, did the volume just change for anyone else other than me?
Yep.
Yes.
Rap massively.
He went,
am I sounding super loud?
No, it's not you.
It's just you were talking and it swung up and then swung down. Yeah. It's not you at all.
It's not you.
No, but these are very interesting areas because, especially on social media, with video games, whatever I'm covering, you very often have people coming out of the woodwork and say, well, if it's a lie, why aren't they suing? Why aren't they making noise? Why aren't they doing these things? And there's 1,000 reasons why a defamation lawsuit or pursuing those grounds doesn't necessarily make sense. Yeah. And this is a conversation I've had a lot.
So okay, let's go around the panel then, because I say that he has to sue. I think he has to sue for his name. His career is already wrecked. He's got plenty of money. He's got the bank account to do it. And even if he doesn't win, he's still getting his side out there because it would just continue to be drummed on and on and on and on and on. But everything undefended. David, what's your view?
It's case by case.
Absolutely.
If I'm Dr. Fauci and I'm not suing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for defamation, I'm drawing some very negative inferences there. With Johnny Depp, people might hate it. I don't think he should sue because I think he's got, whether or not there's contextual explanations for the wild life he's lived, that he may have hit Amber or had a violent outburst once to her 99, that she took a dump on his bed and he might have thrown something across the room. That one, the stuff that Johnny Depp has in his past is going to come out. And if you think that people are going to put it into context, you're mistaken. If you think a media that is unfavorable is going to put it into context, you've got something else coming. He's probably got nothing to gain from it because he's not going to win a $50 million judgment against Amber for defamation. And so he's not going to regain or recoup his losses. He's going to expose himself to an ugly trial that's going to reveal, if not objectively bad behavior vis-a-vis Amber Heard, just other behavior which will not make him look sympathetic in the public. He's had a wild life. And at some point you have to, either cut your
Well,
losses.
she's already been caught. She's already been caught through this mess too. Lying. I don't know if it was perjury or what, but she stated that she was going to put the money in different places. I mean, she's getting more and more and more exposed at the same
it's
time.
the more that time has gone on, I think that what makes this kind of a stronger case for him is that there are some very specific incidents that she talks about him, hitting her violently or whatever. And when she's, described them and she's had other friends kind of give their accounts, the friends are never there for these incidents. That's one thing that's important to note. They are not eyewitnesses. They are not, they've only known like, oh, this all happened just before I came in the room. I mean, how do you know what happened? Right. Of course, they are entirely relying on what she has told them. And then like what they can detect based on like what happened when they arrived, where people are positioned and whatnot.
Well, there's the cops too,
on top of that,
there's the friends who flat out said she lied, and then there are the cops where they have body cam footage.
Cam footage that shows. So the way that it was described, for example, that this it was May 21st, 2015. This incident in their apartment. The way that they had described it, that Heard and her friends had described it was like, oh, all of this stuff was thrown everywhere. He had trashed a bunch of stuff. He had spilled wine everywhere because he was drunk, and then like they see the body cam footage. Apparently, I haven't actually seen it yet. So, but this is what I have gathered from other people. There's a lot of people in this space that have been for the last few years that have really been taking a lot of time to look at all of this evidence. There's a bunch of YouTube channels that are, I see that people in the chat have been talking about that umbrella guy. And then there's also other podcasts and stuff. So yeah, for all of those people, yes, I have seen a lot of these videos and listened to these podcasts and stuff. But so the body cam footage apparently says, or shows none of that is true. So, there's a lot of ways that her story has started to really not line up over time. And the longer that time goes on, the more that she has some of these friends kind of distancing themselves from her and saying, there was stuff that she told me. And now that I've seen other video footage that was not made public in the beginning, now I see that this stuff is not exactly the way that was described to me. And I don't want anything to do with the situation. So it's a very interesting.
So should he sue or not sue, Alita?
I think for the son, maybe he shouldn't have, but I think that when it comes to the damage that happened to his reputation because of Amber Heard's statement, I think so. I think absolutely he should, because otherwise he'll never work again in Hollywood, because he was completely blacklisted as a result of it. And this was in the midst of the Me Too movement. So it was like as soon as some woman names a man and says that she was somehow harmed by him, it was just done. No questions asked. He's gone.
Alita, because of the chat, this is, however bad Amber Heard is, I say she'll never get the right media coverage to make it come out. But here, from page 6, this is the poop that flushed Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's marriage away. Johnny Depp's disgusted maid described in court Tuesday how she found poop in the bed. The actor shared with then-wife Amber Heard and had photos to prove it. Let me see here. She's accused Depp has accused Heard or one of her friends of pooping in the bed as a prank after the actress's 30th birthday, following a fight between the pair. Housekeeper Hilda Vergas said in a written statement submitted to the British court that she arrived at the penthouse and heard another cleaning lady call for her in horror from the bedroom. She was pointing to the bed and told me that she couldn't believe what she found. I pulled back the sheets and saw a large pile of feces. Yeah. I was disgusted.
A dookie.
Yeah. There's never been any insinuation that was Johnny Depp's, but there has been either an accusation.
Was there DNA testing? Was there?
I don't know, but
Alita, what's interesting too is none of her.
So apparently, she was saying for a while. From what I was researching in this, for what she was saying was that it was her Yorkie that had done it. I mean, I said this. I said this on my stream. As someone who is the primary scooper for 3 animals of different sizes, you can tell which is which.
Oh God! By the way,
can you really tell?
Hold on. Of course you can, dude. By the way,
different size animal has a different size, stuff.
This
It's all Lita. It's all her fault. She's talking.
No, it's been that way for a while, Joe. Especially even with your camera off. But I'm like, we're talking about the yellow stream, and it got scatological, so we're just doomed. Good Lord. Oh God! All right, we ran Richard off again.
We'll try again.
Yeah, I tried
Hopefully
to.
my
No,
mic
yeah,
isn't
you're
going
muted.
crazy.
Oh no, just kidding.
Am I muted? Oh, no, I tried to bring up a chat that said it's just a prank, bro. But okay, I'm not saying it's glitchy to complain. I'm not trying to follow the chat. I'm done.
I do agree with Alita on that. And that's kind of what I'm saying is that he needs to at least have a voice out there so he can work in the future and people can say, no, I believe him. I'm going to hire him or not. But if he never answers, then nobody can get away with hiring him, period. They don't have any excuse or reason or whatever. And
especially in an industry like the film industry. Like it's one of those that is just you're either in or you're out. And especially when he's been out by virtue of something like the Me Too movement, that's a very strong thing to have to just sort of wait out, and especially if you truly believe that those are not true. So, I mean, if it turns out, if it goes to trial and it turns out that there's some amount of truth to it, then that's one thing. But I mean, if these things are not true, what she's saying about him, which I have been really starting to suspect that is the case, then yeah, absolutely. He should totally be fighting tooth and nail as anyone would.
Kurt, your thoughts?
Oh, no, you're muted.
Or he's just miming to pull a prank.
Maybe he is. I don't know.
And he gives up.
There.
I think,
Oh,
and
no.
I think Hoeg is muted.
Oh, no.
Hey, look, I'll just
I'm
answer
muted
for
now?
both of them.
No, you're not. You're not.
Hoeg is
You're
not
just
even
quiet,
there.
I think.
No camera, no mute, nothing. I mean,
No,
Hoeg's
see-
just a blue box.
I see Hoeg.
I see
All
how.
right, I got.
Okay,
You do.
Joe, can
was
we
a blue
hear and
box
see
for a
you?
while?
I think you.
There
can.
you go. Okay. What do you say,
David,
Joe?
the only thing I would add to what Alita said there is that
Hey,
you
Joe.
still have to have.
Hey,
Can
Joe.
you prove it?
Joe,
I mean,
Joe?
yes, you should sue because
Joe?
it's the right thing
What?
to do, and that's.
do you have an
what justice
opinion?
is.
You
Oh,
always have an opinion.
Yeah.
God,
Hoeg
this
is
everybody note this. Joe is quiet.
Hoeg is talking. Richard is talking.
Eric, can
Why
you
am I
not
going to
hear
talk
Rick?
over him?
I
Well, Richard's muted. I can't hear him.
I can't.
I
hear
hear
him.
him.
No, no, we can
We
hear
all
him.
hear him.
I don't hear him.
No, we don't.
Okay.
I hear him
No,
say,
we can definitely hear
"Okay."
him. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right. So Joe will talk for me
No,
now,
we
All
don't
right,
hear
so
him.
Joe will talk for me now.
and my thoughts are that Alita
I'm-
makes a good point, but it's
I'm
all
not
about
gonna-
what you can prove.
Alita makes a good point. It's that sometimes being blonde means you're smart. I
Oh
would
my
say
God.
personally, it's all about what you can prove. That's what
Cyrano
I would
went wrong for me. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Eric, I sent you a link via text. If you could share that and bring it up. But Joe, I'll say it's about what you can prove, and it's also about what they can prove. And they're going to show between the two of them enough bad behavior on both sides that a judge will say, "Look, I'm not getting into this story of marital disputes. One is has known bad behavior in the past. The other one has alleged bad behavior in the past. Oh, I'm gonna split the pie, and to say you both did dumb things, and I don't know who to believe." I think if I were Johnny, I wouldn't. I think it's going to turn out badly for him, and the Sun lawsuit in the UK is going to set something of a bad precedent. Even though she's a liar. She made up some stories. He just
I don't think he has a choice.
Yeah, and we'll see if everyone has accused me of being a little too passive.
You met Grandma
pacifistic anyhow,
Flanders.
so.
Hope she didn't scare you.
Oh,
Ah,
there we go.
There we go. That means something good's coming, people.
That's crazy. It didn't even show up on the stream here.
Your attention, please. Your attention, please. I have an.
All right. That's weird. Okay.
I heard Bart Simpson.
That is some serious lag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there are 1,726 people watching.
Well, and that's why I'm doing this.
Pretty
I know
good.
everybody's annoyed or not. I don't know if they're annoyed or not. And it is a beta. I'm taking a chance, but I am trying to help them. How do you get software tested with a lot of people watching on the stream unless somebody takes a chance and does it? It's very, very hard to.
Someone said if it wasn't Johnny Depp's shit, you must have quit, and that's kind of funny.
Although we're not talking about any kind of it's not it's civil, it's not criminal. So
And Richard,
No.
I cannot see you or hear you. I don't. Other people, I guess, can see you. Joe can hear you, but I don't know what's going on with yours, Richard. And
So you can't hear
I
me
guess
at all when I say
Kurt
that.
gave up.
He just called you. He just called you a big fat liar.
no, he didn't.
Richard's face.
Okay, Hoeg, here's the thing. We're gonna do like law. What do they call that game? Law when you what's it called when you play the game where you try to like get someone to describe a word?
Charades.
Charades. We're gonna play
charade?
law charades. Hoeg,
Yeah.
tell us what you think. Like that mime dude. What's his name?
Mine?
The
What?
mime. Who is the mime? The French mime. The fancy one.
Oh, Joe. God, it just popped in and out of my head. You're
Marcel
almost eight.
Marceau. Okay.
Marcel, yeah.
That's what I just
Hoeg,
said.
Marcel
Oh,
Marceau.
come on.
Marcel Marceau is yeah.
That is what I just said. No, he's taking
He's
credit
saying,
now.
He's
Viva is-
Richard's saying he never heard of Marcel Marceau.
That's not true.
I believe it.
Oh, this is funny.
Joe, you just basically just take whatever Joe says at this point and apply
It's
the
the
opposite.
opposite.
Oh, so hold on. People are saying audio is good in the chat.
There we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just everybody
Maybe
but
it's not
Eric, I
me.
think, can hear.
All right. Well, you know what?
At least now Richard's saying it's definitely his fault, and that he's
That's
gonna-
right.
Well, it is definitely Richard's fault, but I'm
Yep.
going to bump out and come back in and see if I can.
No, I will
Why
grant
not
you.
have the host?
Oh man.
Oh.
But anyway, to wrap
Make
up
us
the
all
discussion
hosts.
on
Make us
Johnny
all
Depp,
hosts before you go.
so apparently this is going to be published.
Yeah,
a
what could
public
go
trial.
wrong, Joe, with that?
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Hold
I
on. So
can
the,
certainly
I can
hear you
hear.
over there.
I, you know,
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
gonna
yeah,
listen
sorry.
Now,
to
is
listen to
Alita
Richard, I'm
talking?
gonna
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I can't
I'm gonna
hear
try.
Viva.
I'm gonna try and
Are you-
lip read what Alita is saying.
No, I was gonna say so the Johnny Depp trial is apparently they're supposed to have
Alita's muted.
cameras-
I don't know what the hell she's saying.
Oh, come on. No, they're supposed to have cameras in the courtroom, in which case I will be live streaming it.
Oh,
I think she said she dipped out for a while.
No,
Yeah,
what's
I
the-
know.
Depp.
what's your this is in California.
you guys are the worst.
If you hear
Am
Viva,
I on
what
mute now?
state is it?
No, we're just ignoring you.
Okay, no.
You guys hear?
Alita, where is this trial being held?
Viva actually is muted for me.
Can you hear me? He was asking what state it is. Yeah, he just
Where
muted himself.
is the trial?
No,
I can hear Rick.
You did,
Yeah.
Viva.
Oh,
Where-
this is too
So
Where
where
You're muted
we
now.
got where? Okay,
is the
is the
trial?
Oh,
Trial. Oh, it's in
child?
Virginia.
Where's the child?
The
My
trial is in
my child's
Virginia.
not.
Virginia State Court. So it's not federal. So
I got my
which is
kids coming.
great.
I don't know why. Where's Winnie? I don't know where my child is.
No, hold on.
It's,
Oh, now I
it's
can
almost.
hear you.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, you
now
can-
I
you can
see
hear me now.
everybody.
Yes.
It's almost
This
like
is
a fun
ridiculous.
game.
I mean, it's funny. So the Johnny Depp trial is in Virginia.
Yes.
yeah.
Scheduled for what dates?
What dates? It starts on April 11th.
I
11th?
have to go down to
Yes.
Virginia, Washington. No, yeah, I might. Okay, that might be worth.
Yeah.
Alita.
And even if for some reason the judge decides not to let cameras in the courtroom, I've already decided I'm planning on being in the States around that time. So otherwise, so if they don't, I will be there for it. I'll go and I'll pull a good logic and be the woman on the street this time.
Oh,
When
wow.
is it? When is the trial again?
Nice.
April
trying
11th.
I was trying to be the woman on the streets, but no, it wasn't a very convincing sell.
What
Yeah.
I was gonna say, do we know how many days it's scheduled for at this time?
I think I saw 2 weeks, but I have to double check. So
That sounds like would be a lot of fun to go and
Eva,
Yes.
Eva in the chat was saying if it would be cool if people can get there and do a meetup.
yes,
Well,
I
in
would totally do
Virginia?
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's about
DC area?
3 to 4 hours
When
for
is
me.
it starting? When is it starting?
April 11th.
April 11th. Oh,
Well, you can get down there in the Acela, right?
I probably
yeah.
could. I probably could. Oh, shut up, the Acela. I would drive down there, dude.
Oh, shut up. Okay.
Going down there in the Acela. It's an interesting.
Oh, and somebody in the
thought.
chat wants to know where in Virginia. So it's at the Fairfax courthouse. So it's in Northern Virginia, DC area. Yeah.
why did Johnny Depp pick that jurisdiction?
Interesting. So because both parties are actually, it's an interesting question too, because both parties are from California. He chose Virginia, because everything came out, the defamation claims all came out of her op-ed in the Washington Post, which is headquartered in Virginia. So it was a very interesting jurisdictional question.
A better place than California.
What's your relationship to Virginia that you would be there?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I have friends and family in DC.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm planning on being on the opposite coast for like, you know, the time actually like right before that. But I mean, it's on the way back for me. So,
Alita, aren't you licensed to practice in Virginia too? Virginia,
not
California?
Virginia, but I am in DC.
Okay. Oh,
so
okay.
I wish I were for purposes of here, because then it's probably easier to get into the courthouse.
Out of curiosity, did Eric just ask you something just then?
Yes,
he did.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Right. Didn't hear him ask? I can translate. I can translate for you if you want.
I got nothing from Eric. I just have legal bites stopping.
So if I bounce out, I think maybe the glitch with Hoeg might come back. So
it's like getting half an audio track on your speakers. Viva's muted.
Enjoy the weekend.
It's a good time.
David, you're leaving? You're leaving us, David?
I've been summoned by the missus. So
Viva's saying he was very offended by your last comment, so he's going to be out of here.
Wow.
I think internally it'll unglitch with 4.
I like that Joe's the only one that can hear.
I want to see if I can get that. I am the perfect middleman. Yeah.
No, you're the worst middleman.
Yeah, you are the worst.
They're all in agreement. They're all in agreement.
See you soon.
Good seeing you, Viva.
See you.
I don't
Later, Viva.
Bye, Viva.
How do I do it? Just hit the waved video on the top and close the tab.
All right. Now we fill out the screen.
Yay.
Joe, are you talking?
I get it. That's funny. That's funny. But everyone, I know you all hear me. I created like powerful audio. He was just asking if I can hear him. See? What else we got? What's your next question? I'll be your interviewer, Eric.
Richard, can you hear me?
I'm going to try one more time.
Yeah. Yeah. He wants to know if you can hear him, but no. He can't. No, he can't.
I'm going to try one more time.
No.
Brother.
Oh, no.
Does that mean are you leaving and coming back? I guess so.
I hope so. Viva's in the chat. Now I can hear Richard.
Not anymore.
Okay, nice. Beautiful. I can't hear Dick. So
oh god, it's too funny. It almost is making it more amusing.
You like that?
I can't hear Dick.
See, now I'm starting to hear the bing bongs too.
Yeah.
That's your nickname for me.
Right, now you're muted for me, Rick.
Okay. I can hear me.
I hear you fine. I hear you fine.
I don't, but let me mute him and unmute him. Hold on.
No, you're great. You're great. Just keep going.
Talk again, Richard.
We can't make the whole conversation.
I hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay, that worked. I muted you myself and unmuted you, and that seemed to work. Okay. So that's something I can try.
Good option.
All right.
Yeah. Well, the best option is they'll fix it.
Let's see. I've been lagged so much. I didn't see any of the things you presented on stream, and I didn't see us transition into the number of boxes at all. So I got out.
Oh man.
So in any event, tech fun. No worries. Yeah. I enjoyed the conversation. Joe's translation is very, very good. We'll have him at the UN. He'll be doing some live translations for folks.
Yes.
He's not a good translator. He's the worst.
The exact opposite.
I always wonder whenever you see a translator whether they're doing exactly what I was just doing. Like, how do you ever know? How would anyone ever know if you have a rogue translator who's just like all of a sudden changing everything there?
There's probably international conflicts that have been started by rogue translation. Come on.
There you go.
There's actually I wish I could remember the name of the creator that has it up, but there's a video by I think he's a comedian. I think it's like called The Translator, where it's one of these sort of situations where it's like two drug lords are meeting with a translator. One of them, or maybe one of them is an American. He's like at the Fed or something, and then a drug lord, and there's like a translator in between. And so the problem with the translator is he's improperly changing terms like you and I. And so it sounds like he's being like accusatory or like, it's really funny. And it ends obviously terribly, but it's a really good video. It's hilarious.
Love it.
It's probably better to watch it than hear my description of it.
No. Give us more detail.
I
Give us
feel
more
bad.
detail.
I feel bad because Viva's asking me about like Theranos and things. It's like, well, I chatted about it and I know enough to be dangerous. I'm not covering that. You got to ask me about, what I put up a Dr. Disrespect video just before coming on.
Yes,
here. I have a very specific.
I haven't watched it yet, but I want to.
No, it literally went up
it.
at like 11:55. I don't think you could have watched it before we got on. So
yeah,
no, that's the kind of thing I cover. I feel first of all, I feel like Eric. I get a lot of information about litigation and evidence rules here. I very much enjoy it. But yeah, for the most part, still commercial transactions guy. So I could tell you when I see a contract dispute. I can tell you when I can see an arbitration and how a settlement looks from afar.
Yep.
But you asked me about what was it? Use immunity on
Use
specific
immunity.
testimony.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
sit back and listen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was okay. That was him flexing his intellectual superiority, and he's like, "So what? So Joe, why don't you tell us what you would have written on the bar exam about use immunity?" And I'm like, "Well, really?
He loves you."
Yeah. I was like, "Thank you so much."
Kurt is very much an appeals court nerd. That's his
Yes.
thing.
totally.
As he puts it, he likes law without those people.
Let's tell it work. It's a lot more academic. It's a lot more dealing with those legal questions. There's no question about that. And yeah, I do contracts and software and things like that. So that's what my channel's about. So Viva asking me about the specifics of a criminal trial. I was like, yeah, well,
Well, David isn't a criminal lawyer either, so don't worry about it.
No, he was doing good. He's asking everybody what they're into, and he remembered that I talked about Theranos last night. No, so I mean, it's good memory, but it's like, no.
Which that actually Theranos reminds me of. Have you guys seen? I literally just before coming on here saw for the first time the trailer for a new Apple TV Plus show about the WeWork guy and the way that entirely imploded.
What is that?
It's called We Crash, I think.
Yeah, I know.
Sure.
There's a couple things on
Sure
here.
it is.
Yeah, I know. It's not the best title, but it's with Jared Leto. He's the star, and then playing his wife is what's her face from Princess Diaries. That's what I think of her from.
Right.
Hathaway?
Yes, Anne Hathaway. Thank you.
Well, I figured it wasn't Mary Poppins, so we're only the two choices.
Right. Yeah. So it actually looks really good.
Oh, We Crashed. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that guy did so well. I mean, because he managed to pull out a couple $1 billion while he was sliding out of all this mess they created. I can't remember all of it, but
hey, it's good if you can get it.
Yeah.
Well, Movie Pass is back. Movie Pass has a new business model.
I think a movie about Theranos would be phenomenally interesting. Just
what? I want a movie.
The Hulu show is
in the works?
interesting. The Hulu show is interesting.
I thought there was an actual, or
That's
is
what
that the drama?
He's
Yes,
saying
there is.
Hulu.
The Dropout. The Dropout.
The Dropout is currently going through its season.
Oh, okay. Because I
there have
thought,
been
for
like
some
2
reason,
or
I thought
3
that there were only
documentaries
documentaries
on
out.
it.
Okay.
Multiple. I
Yeah.
think.
I
What
watched
is it?
And a
Amanda,
podcast series,
it's Amanda
too.
Siegfried is
Yes.
Elizabeth Holmes.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting.
And Amanda looks more convincingly human than Elizabeth Holmes did. I'm just saying.
Like I said last night, if you're a Silicon Valley investor, there's a certain weirdness that you're looking for. Anyway.
Yeah. It's an interesting world, but we could talk about Dr. Disrespect too. What are your
I
thoughts
don't know how many people care about it or not, but certainly it's a big deal in the world of high stakes video game streaming arbitration. It's a little niche.
Yeah, didn't he get fired from Twitch or something?
Whoa, we don't
something?
know what happened. No. Yeah, no. Summer 2020, he essentially just inexplicably disappears. And then
in the
Twitch
middle of a
gives an
live
announcement
stream,
that says we kill people that violate our community service guidelines and our terms of service. Only the weirdness about Dr. Disrespect is he's not just some dude, right? So 3 months before that, they had signed him to the biggest exclusive contract that Twitch had ever had. He was in the Hollywood Reporter. He's represented by CAA. He's got, high-priced attorneys representing him. And then Twitch kills him in the summer, in the same week that Mixer went under. So everybody comes out of the woodwork in the gaming industry talking about this particular issue. And one of the complaints I have on my channel is with journalists I respect and that I enjoy their work of, essentially jumping on the bandwagon because gaming was having its own kind of Me Too reckoning and various other things coming out.
Gamergate back in the day, right?
Well, in 2020, you had other things and scandals happening with Twitch and other places. That's before you get into Activision and Riot and kind of the other stuff that's more kind of corporate. But with the influencer culture and things like that, that was happening in the summer of 2020. Mixer goes under. Then Dr. Disrespect is canceled by Twitch. His contract is ended, and they say, he's banned. They start refunds that day for people that had subscriptions to him. And then all the journalists start saying, well, I'm hearing it's real bad. The FBI might be involved and like all this stuff, which I'm like,
there might be criminal liability.
You cannot freaking report on that kind of speculation to that damning level. And so I get irritated. So you get some passionate Hoeg videos when this happens in June of 2020. But suffice to say, I tell folks, look, this happened. Mixer goes under. These statements you can't take under consideration. CAA representing him. If you're going into confidential arbitration and you've got millions and millions and millions of dollars on the line, and if you think that Twitch is wrong, or better, you think that they can't make the case, whatever that breach term looks like, however they incorporated by reference their terms of service, etc. If you don't think they can make the case, then you're going to go and fight this, and everybody goes dark. Which I literally in my video said, this is what it looks like when you're well represented and there's millions of dollars on the line. You go dark, dark, dark. And that's what they did for a year and a half plus. And then yesterday, and there's, it sounds like nothing. There's 15 videos in my playlist on this. I think yesterday there's a picture that Dr. Disrespect puts up that says exactly what you would expect from a fairly acrimonious settlement. That is, I'm done with my legal dispute. Nobody's admitting fault.
Yep.
Moving on. And so I talk about that. I talk about how that's what you would expect throughout the process. This is what a settlement would look like, or even a consent award at the arbitration level if the parties can agree that we don't want any more bad blood out there. But almost certainly a settlement. And that Twitch, regardless of how you feel about their terms of service or their community guidelines or anything else, they would have had to have gone out there or shown something to the arbitrator. And there was at least a reasonable disagreement as to what was being shown, which was pretty self-evident at the time when sponsors started coming back almost immediately. And yesterday, Mountain Dew put up a happy birthday to the champ of all champs or whatever they wind up saying. He's got his persona, and Mountain Dew, obviously giant brand. And so nobody really knows what Twitch was acting on. There's all sorts of stories about that they were keeping it to only the 3 top people and weren't even sharing it with their upper management or disciplinary committees. And that was used. You can argue it was leaked, depending on how you feel about this. That was used to have all sorts of whispers and suggestions around gaming. So August of last year, Dr. Disrespect comes out and is basically like, well, this is ridiculous. I can't work on Call of Duty. I can't participate in tournaments. I'm being cut off of those things. And they've run a whisper campaign against me, so I'm going to sue. I also said at that point, he might mean he's going to arbitrate harder. I mean, non-lawyers are not going to be terribly specific about the arbitration, which is going to include depositions and evidence changes and all these kinds of things. That could have been him suing, at the time.
It could have also just been that his lawyer sent a demand letter, and then that got negotiations started, and before there was anything that would actually be filed in any court, in any civil court,
Well, I mean, I think his arbitration clause was almost certainly ironclad. So the one thing the lawyers say is like, it's going to be real tricky to get out of this. In that earlier video, I say, well, you got hurdles.
Actually, I don't know that you can make that assumption because, going off of, what's his name? The other Twitch streamer that actually won against Twitch, Varga.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Phantom Lord. Sorry.
Phantom Lord.
So after talking with him about that whole contract situation, the fact that he won against them when they tried to argue terms of service, and the court said, no, this is not a terms of service issue. This is a contract issue. And the fact of the matter is that contract did not incorporate by reference the terms of service at all. So that was a huge oversight by Twitch that makes me think I don't necessarily have the confidence that I would assume that they would have an ironclad arbitration agreement in those contracts. I mean, also given the fact that Phantom Lord was able to sue in federal court as well.
Right. And I don't know the timing of those particular interactions, but one question would be, they signed Dr. Disrespect March of 2020. And certainly there's institutional knowledge that happens when they get burned like that. right? So I mean, there are
once bitten,
fixes.
twice shy.
Well, there are fixes that can happen. Certainly, when
they may have decided, realized that glaring oversight after Phantom Lord, and because my understanding is that from what I have heard is that the contracts that are more recent do have they do incorporate by reference
to not have it. So yes, that was a mistake if they indeed made it. But yeah, the point there is that, let's say Twitch is presenting some kind of nefarious, horrible thing that either can't be proven or whatever. Both sides are really inclined to arbitrate anyway. At that point, it doesn't do any good for the whispers to become stronger whispers. So if you're sitting there with him, he's threatening lawsuits. He's a personality. So the point was, I wasn't sure whether that was serious or not. But the other reason that I wanted to make the video was that people were asking me, well, why does this happen now? They've been working on this for 2 years. It's like, as you come closer and closer to figuring out who's likely to win and what that's likely to look like, settlement chances go way up. It's why you've got the 99% settlement in civil actions and things like that, is because you might believe you have the best darn case, but once the depositions are out, once the evidence is out, once you're looking at things, once you're sitting with your lawyer at that point in time, part of the conversation is, so what'll this cost now to fix? We've already suspended all this amount. And what'll it look like if we don't fix it? And so my best guess is that Twitch probably believes what they were selling, but the contract became much, much less valuable when Mixer went under. There's no question, regardless of how you feel about things. Their main competitor goes under. They were the ones fighting over exclusive contracts. That happens that second. The contract you just signed in March is vastly less valuable. So then your lawyers go over it and say, well, is there anything we can use? Right? I mean, that just happens in a corporation. And so they said, yes, we can use this. They cut them loose, and they said, oh, no. And that's how a fight develops. But you get into this period of time now, and whether it's demand letters, whether it's threats, whether it went well for one side or the other in arbitration, this is exactly how you would expect that kind of process to look. And certainly a year and a half, 2 years hence, you don't see FBI reports. You don't see police actions. I don't know what happened any better than anybody else did, but it's clear that, especially in gaming, journalists jumped way too early on stuff that is life crippling. And I don't know what he did. It's something that's still come out in 10 years.
It's so irresponsible to do that too.
I hate it.
Because we're talking about somebody's livelihood.
I hate it. Well, I will tell you this. I didn't include this in my video. I got phone calls at various points during this playlist from people that claim to be with Twitch or otherwise associated with Twitch, telling me to drop it, not threatening. It wasn't a Godfather call, but telling me to drop it because it was so horrible. It didn't make sense to be on that side. I was like, I'm not on a side. First of all, I'm just analyzing what I see. But I did get contacted by folks saying, this is bad, but I don't know. To me, it's like if Twitch wants to push for a contract to be killed, they can whisper in their own organization to do that kind of stuff. So either way, it appears to be over for good, with a caveat. You got a Twitch/YouTube streamer that runs personality-based stuff for live streams of varying lengths.
Alita, you interviewed Dr. Disrespect?
Not Dr. Disrespect. I would love to if he would. But Phantom Lord, though. I had him
Phantom Lord. Okay, somebody
after he went.
Yeah,
I had him and his attorney on my channel not long after they won against Twitch.
I'll tell you this. I had never heard of Dr. Disrespect or Richard Hoeg in August of 2021. And for some reason, YouTube threw that video into my timeline. And I watched one video of Richard, and I became an instant fan. I was like, dude, this guy brings the law. He's informative. He's on point. I was like, everything here is just really, really impressive.
Well, and that's very nice of you to say, Joe. Thank you.
It's the truth. I'm telling you the truth.
Just very condensedly valued content, I would say. It's like that's how I would describe Rick's content. Is like every time it's like there's really no fluff. Like he really just goes right into it, gives a really great analysis, and you come away from it really feeling like you learned something.
Yeah.
So,
this is all very nice. I appreciate it. It's very funny to me because so many of my commenters are like, why did this take 45 minutes, etc.? It's like, and usually my response is like, well, a good conversation takes a little bit of time to go through. It's been very interesting. Dr. Disrespect, not in August of 2021, but really was the first big pop for the channel. That was the first 250,000 view video at Hoeg at Virtual Legality. Was
Amazing.
covering Dr. Disrespect. And so I definitely wanted to see it through to the conclusion. But
have you heard from his people at all? Okay.
No comment.
Okay.
All right.
All right. What was the question?
Whether he ever heard from Dr. Disrespect himself.
Or his people. I said his people. I deliberately gave room for obfuscation.
His people. I will say no comment to that specifically. I would say you would be surprised at the number of subjects of my videos that contact me through Virtual Legality.
Interesting.
Okay. I believe it. Well, dude, if you were doing a video on me for some reason, I'd surely be watching it.
I am always afraid. I gotten phone calls from general counsels. I've gotten all sorts of stuff. I'm always afraid of that call that's like, we're going to sue the shit out of you. and thankfully that has not happened as of yet. We're 600 some odd videos in. But every time I get a message, it says, this is so-and-so. We saw your video last night. I'm general counsel of X. It's like, great. What do you want to chat about?
Breath, read on. Oh, man.
Yeah. But no, that's the fun stuff. You know, that's the fun stuff. We cover that kind of thing over that space more than lawsuits, even though Epic versus Apple was epic, to be honest.
Also, this is totally. Oh, I can't hear you, Joe. No, I'm serious. I can't hear you.
He sounds much better that way.
Oh, wait, Eric, you can't hear him either?
No,
Is it just me?
No,
okay.
I'm trying to see if I can mute him and bring him up, but I don't even see a microphone option. There we go. Hold on. There. Now he's officially muted. Unmuted.
Nope. Still can't hear him. Oh, man.
He's fun to watch.
It's very entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I should just solo him because a lot of people would like to say, this is how we want to watch Joe. Go ahead, Joe. Speak your mind. Tell us what you think.
We can't hear you.
Everybody thinks you're making sense at this exact moment for some reason. I don't know why.
No, yeah, I can't hear him.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to be wrapping up here in a minute.
Well, let me just say one last thing, because Uncivil, I see him in the chat, and he was talking smack about my T-shirt. And I just want to say, I'm sorry, we really can't hear you. I'm just going to say, I am wearing this shirt in honor of the 1992 Lithuanian national basketball team, because today is Lithuanian Independence Day, one of the two. I'm just,
you get two Independence Days. Whoa.
When you've been invaded twice, you have to, unfortunately, have multiples.
Nothing.
Oh wow! Oh, I've got a page unresponsive.
Like the Grateful Dead.
Very interesting. Very
like
quick.
Lithuania had the Grateful Dead.
Richard's frozen on mine. So
oh no, I can see him. He's fine on mine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
now Joe is back. I think.
Yeah, Joe's back.
Is Joe back?
Oh, I can hear you. I can't see you though.
Oh, okay,
now I can see you.
I said cool. Lithuania never had the Grateful Dead.
Wow, this is fun.
So,
yeah, the Grateful Dead actually sponsored the Lithuanian basketball team in 1992.
Really?
That was the way that they were able to afford their homework for everyone is if you have not already watched it, go and watch a documentary called The Other Dream Team. It is fantastic and wonderful, and you will learn all about this really great group of phenomenal basketball players and freedom and cool stuff like the Grateful Dead.
You have that music going on there. All right, cool.
Now that we can hear Joe, we can.
Oh, so what I was saying, by the way, is someone said it in the chat.
I just now only see Joe. So
all right, beautiful.
Maybe I should call it.
The Princess Diaries is Anne Hathaway. Princess Bride is Robin Wright.
No, I'm sorry. I misspoke. I meant to say Princess Diaries.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I think of Les Mis for that. Or Devil Wears Prada.
Devil Wears Prada, Les Mis. Those are also good. Yeah. Good examples.
All right, folks. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap up.
I have no idea what you're answering, Legal Bites, but if it's Anne Hathaway movies, I go for Interstellar.
Okay.
That works too.
I hear you, Richard, this one. So I'm hoping the chat can hear everybody. And there's more work to be done on the software. Should be entertaining.
It's perfect.
People can find you,
Perfect. the way it
Alita,
is. Perfect.
at Legal Bites or
Perfect the way
Legal
it is.
Bites .locals.com, right?
It could not be any improvement.
Richard,
This
are
is
you
as
on?
good as it gets?
Are you on Locals?
Richard's gone. Richard's left.
Richard's
Okay.
gone.
Well, you
Richard
were
left the
perfect.
building.
You were perfect a minute ago, Joe.
Oh, nice. I got you. I got you.
I mean, well, I got a super chat out of it too.
Beautiful.
So
all right, whatever I can do.
I think Richard gave up. All right, so
I think so too.
Logic.locals.
Oh, is he
there
back?
he
You're
is.
back. Yay.
Hey.
We'll see. We'll see how long it lasts. I don't know
All
whether
right.
it's
All right.
yeah. I lose.
Can anyone hear
Oh
him?
no, but
though?
I can't hear you, Rick.
Here we go. We got
No,
the
I'm
chime.
kidding. I hear him. I hear you.
All right, Richard,
What do
You
you
do?
got?
lead us out. Tell us
Yeah.
where to find you.
I will do that. Well, as you heard me talking about, virtual legality is my main course of putting content out there. It's at the YouTube Hoeg Law channel. You can also find me talking with a lot of these folks on here on Twitter at Hoeg Law as well, where we chat about all manner of things, including my terrible Michigan basketball team. But that's where you can find me. We're talking about video games, pop culture, technology, and more through the lens of business and law, just not so much the litigation itself. But do check it out. I would love to see you there. And we've got more fun conversations to come.
Great seeing you always, Richard.
Yeah,
All right, Joe.
always great to see you.
Your word of wisdom.
You're coming to me before Alita. Yeah, so I have a channel. It's called Good Logic, and I basically talk about the law and politics and things of that nature. I stream nightly from 10 to midnight Eastern, Saturday through Thursday, like every day but Friday. So yeah, I urge you to check me out. People seem to have a lot of fun there, especially in the chat, more than listening to me, but that works.